I stood on my own front porch, key trembling in my hand, watching through the window as my daughter-in-law Jessie raised a champagne flute inside my house. She saw me there, locked out, humiliated, and she smiled. Actually smiled. Then she mouthed two words that made my blood freeze. "It's ours now." 3 hours earlier, I'd told them I'd won $75 million in the lottery. 3 hours later, they changed my locks and threw my belongings on the lawn like garbage, but here's what Jessie didn't know. What neither of them knew. While they were celebrating their supposed victory, drinking expensive champagne they'd bought with my credit card, I'd already transferred the house into an irrevocable trust. I'd already hired the best attorneys money could buy. I'd already set a trap that would destroy them completely, and I was about to spring it. Welcome, my beautiful souls, to Voice of Auntie Katie.to every single subscriber watching this right now. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here, for choosing to spend your time with me, for trusting me with your stories and your hearts. You are the reason I do this. Before we begin today's story, I want to say a quick prayer for each and every one of you. Heavenly Father, I lift up every person watching this video right now. Wherever they are, whatever they're facing, I pray you wrap them in your love and protection. Give them strength for their battles, wisdom for their decisions, and peace for their worried hearts. Let them know they are valued, they are worthy, and they are never alone. Bless their families, their health, their finances, and their futures. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, if you're ready for a story about betrayal, revenge, and the sweetest justice you've ever heard, settle in. Hit that like button right now if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And subscribe because this channel is for people who understand that loyalty matters, that family means more than blood, and that sometimes, choosing yourself is the bravest thing you can do. Let's begin. My name is Diane Hartwell. I'm 71 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that if you loved people hard enough, they'd love you back the same way. That I was wrong. The story really begins 5 years ago, when my husband Roger died from a massive stroke while working in the rose garden we'd planted together. One moment he was trimming the yellow roses, my favorites, and the next, he was gone. Just like that. 43 years of marriage erased in a single afternoon. Roger and I had built a good life in Rosewood Hills, Oregon. Nothing fancy, nothing extravagant. Just a modest colonial home with white trim and forest green shutters, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and that rose garden Roger tended like it was his 4th child. He'd been a contractor. I'd been a librarian at the elementary school for 32 years. We raised our son Mitchell in that house. We hosted Thanksgiving dinners and 4th of July barbecues. We grew old together in those rooms. After Roger died, the house felt too big and too small at the same time. Too big because everywhere I looked, I saw his absence. Too small because the walls seemed to press in on me with memories I couldn't escape. Mitchell was 33 then, working as an accountant for a mid-sized firm downtown. He'd always been a sensitive boy, the kind who cried during commercials with puppies and brought home injured birds he'd found in the schoolyard. When he met Jessie Crawford at some networking event, I was thrilled. My son had found someone. I wouldn't have to worry about him being alone. Jessie was 30 then, beautiful in that calculated way some women perfect, sharp cheekbones, honey blonde hair she wore in a sleek ponytail, green eyes that seemed to assess the value of everything they landed on. She called herself a life coach and wellness consultant, which as far as I could tell meant she posted motivational quotes on Instagram and sold essential oils to desperate people. They got married 18 months after Roger died. Small ceremony at the courthouse, just family. I paid for the reception dinner at a nice restaurant because Jessie said her cash flow was temporarily restricted from scaling her business. I didn't mind. She was going to be my daughter-in-law. Family. The first 2 years of their marriage, they lived in a tiny apartment across town. Mitchell's salary covered the basics, but Jessie's business never seemed to generate actual income. Just expenses. Always expenses. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. It was a Tuesday in March when Mitchell called me, his voice tight with stress. "Mom, can we come over tonight? We need to talk to you about something important." My stomach dropped. That tone. That careful, measured tone. Something was wrong. They arrived at 7, Mitchell carrying a bottle of wine, Jessie empty-handed but smiling. We sat in my living room, the same room where Roger and I had watched Mitchell take his first steps, where we'd opened Christmas presents for decades, where I'd sat alone after the funeral trying to remember how to breathe. "Mom," Mitchell began, glancing at Jessie for support. She nodded encouragingly. Jessie's startup didn't work out. The wellness subscription box thing. It failed. We lost a lot of money. "Oh honey, I'm so sorry." I reached for his hand. "These things happen. You'll bounce back." "The thing is," Jessie interrupted, her voice honey-sweet, "we're in a really tight spot financially. Our lease is up next month and we can't afford to renew. Not with Mitchell's student loans and the business debts and everything." I saw where this was going. "You need help with a deposit on a new place?" "Actually," Mitchell said, looking at the floor, "we were hoping we could stay here. With you. Just temporarily. Maybe 6 months, a year at most. Until we get back on our feet." I should have said no. God, I should have said no. But I looked at my son's desperate face, thought about rattling around alone in this too big, too small house, and I heard myself say, "Of course. You can stay as long as you need." Jessie's smile could have lit up the whole neighborhood. "Beverly, you're an angel. An absolute angel. You know, I've always thought of you as more than Mitchell's mom. You're like a second mother to me, second mother." Those words should have been a warning. Hay moved in the following weekend. I'd prepared the guest bedroom, fresh sheets, cleared out the closet, even bought new towels. I wanted them to feel welcome, to feel like this was their home too. "Just temporarily," Mitchell kept saying as they carried boxes up the stairs. 6 months tops, Mom. I promise." Jessie walked through the house like she was taking inventory, running her fingers along the walls, studying the layout. "This is such a great space. So much potential." "Roger and I loved it," I said, following her into the kitchen. "Oh, Roger." She said his name like she was acknowledging a historical figure, not the man who'd lived and loved in these rooms. "You must miss him terribly." "Every day." "Well, now you won't be alone anymore. We'll take care of you." She squeezed my hand, her grip just a fraction too tight. "That's what family does, right?" The first month was almost pleasant. We'd have breakfast together. I'd make eggs and toast. They'd sit at the kitchen table talking about their plans. Jessie was going to rebrand and focus on high-ticket coaching. Mitchell was studying for a certification that would boost his salary. "Once I get promoted," he told me over coffee one morning, "we'll be able to afford our own place again. Something nice. Maybe even a house." "There's no rush," I assured him. "I like having you here," and I did. For those first few weeks, it felt like family again. Like the house was alive with purpose instead of just echoing with ghosts, but small things started to shift. Jessie began rearranging furniture without asking. The reading chair Roger had loved, the worn leather recliner where he'd spent countless evenings with mystery novels, got moved to the garage because it didn't fit the aesthetic. "What aesthetic?" I asked, staring at the empty space where the chair had been. "I'm just trying to freshen things up," Jessie said, already scrolling through her phone. "You've had the same layout for like 30 years, right? It's time for an update." I wanted to say that 30 years of memories shouldn't be erased for an aesthetic, but I bit my tongue. She was trying to help. She was making an effort. Then the bills started coming. "Mom," Mitchell said one evening, his voice apologetic, "I know we said we'd contribute to utilities and groceries, but this month is really tight. Jessie had some unexpected business expenses and my loan payment went up. Could we maybe skip this month? We'll double up next month, I promise." $300. That's what we'd agreed they'd pay monthly. Hardly anything, really. Barely covering the increase in the water and electric bills from 2 extra people living here. "Of course," I said. "Don't worry about it," but next month came and there was another excuse. And another. By month 6, they hadn't paid a single dollar. I covered everything: utilities, groceries, household supplies. When Jessie mentioned needing new clothes for client meetings, I slipped her $200. When Mitchell's car needed repairs, I paid the mechanic directly. Just until we get settled, he always said. 6 months turned into a year. I told myself it was fine. I had Roger's life insurance, my pension from the school district, some savings. I could afford it. And they were family. But the way Jessie looked at me started to change. It was small at first. When I'd speak, she'd glance at her phone instead of responding. When I'd cook dinner meals I'd spent an hour preparing, she'd take her plate to their bedroom without a word of thanks. When I'd mentioned something about the house, she'd correct me. "We should really replace these kitchen curtains," I said once, touching the yellow fabric I'd hung 20 years ago. "Don't waste your money," Jessie said sharply. "The kitchen is fine, but they're my curtains." In my kitchen, she looked at me like I'd said something absurd. "It's going to be our kitchen eventually, Diane. Why spend money on temporary updates?" Our kitchen. Eventually. The words hung in the air like smoke. That night, I lay awake in bed, Roger's side empty and cold, and wondered what eventually meant. Year 2 is when I started to feel like a stranger in my own home. Did I'd come downstairs in the morning to find they'd had friends over the night before, strangers I'd never met who'd eaten my food, drunk my wine, left rings on Roger's carefully refinished coffee table. "You should have joined us," Jessie would say, not making eye contact. It was really fun, but they'd never invited me. Never even told me they were having people over. I started spending more time in my bedroom, the one space that still felt like mine. I'd hear them downstairs, laughing, their voices carrying up through the vents. Once, I heard Jessie clearly, "God, I can't wait until this place is actually ours. First thing I'm doing is ripping out that hideous wallpaper in the hallway." Mitchell's response was quieter, muffled. Jessie laughed. "She's not going to live forever, babe. And she doesn't have anyone else to leave it to. We just have to be patient." I stood frozen in the hallway with the hideous wallpaper Roger and I had chosen together, the pattern of tiny roses that matched the garden outside, and felt something inside me turn to ice. They were waiting for me to die. My son and his wife were living in my house, eating my food, spending my money, and counting down the days until I was gone so they could have everything. I should have confronted them. Should have thrown them out right then, but I didn't. I made excuses. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe she was joking. Maybe I was being paranoid, letting grief and loneliness poison my perception. So I said nothing, and the abuse got worse. By year 3, they'd stopped even pretending to be grateful. Jessie walked past me like I was furniture. If I spoke to her directly, she'd respond in monosyllables or not at all. If I cooked, she'd order takeout. If I tried to make conversation, she'd put in earbuds. Mitchell followed her lead. My sensitive boy, who used to call me twice a week just to chat, now barely made eye contact. When I'd try to talk to him alone, he'd say he was busy, had a deadline, needed to help Jessie with something. I became a ghost in my own house. My friends from the library stopped visiting after Jessie told them I was going through a difficult time and needed rest and privacy. I only found out when my friend Carol called to check on me. "Diane, Jessie said you've been having some health issues?" We didn't want to intrude, but we've been so worried. "Health issues?" "I'm fine, Carol." I don't know what she's talking about. "Oh." A long pause. She made it sound quite serious. "Memory problems," she said. Getting confused about things. My hands started shaking. "I'm not confused, Carol. I'm perfectly fine," but after that call, fewer people reached out. The isolation wrapped around me like chains. One morning, I came downstairs to find Jessie sitting at my kitchen table with her mother Brenda, a sharp-eyed woman who'd never liked me. "Diane," Brenda said, not standing when I entered. "Jessie's been telling me you've been struggling lately. Having trouble keeping track of things." "I'm not struggling with anything. It's nothing to be ashamed of," Brenda continued, as if I hadn't spoken. "Cognitive decline is natural at your age. There are wonderful facilities that specialize in memory care. Very comfortable. I've been researching options." My heart hammered against my ribs. I don't need memory care. I don't have memory problems. Jessie finally looked at me, her face arranged in an expression of tender concern that made my skin crawl. Diane, you forgot to pay the electric bill last month. We've been trying to help you, but you get so defensive. I didn't forget. You told me you'd handle it this month since I've been covering everything for 3 years. See? Jessie said to her mother. This is what I mean. She gets confused about conversations, then insists her version is right. I felt the room tilt. They were gaslighting me. Building a narrative of incompetence, of decline, of a confused old woman who couldn't take care of herself. Why are you doing this? I whispered. Jessie stood, gathering her purse. We're trying to help you. But if you're going to be hostile, there's nothing we can do. She kissed her mother's cheek. Come on, Mom. Let's go. They left me standing in my kitchen, their kitchen, alone, that night. I lay in bed listening to them in their room, the room that used to be where I'd sewn quilts and stored Christmas decorations, laughing about something. Jessie's voice carried through the wall. She actually believed we'd pay that bill. God, she's so gullible, Mitchell, we need to be careful. If she gets suspicious, she won't. She's too desperate for us to love her. It's pathetic, really. 5 more years, max. Then this place is ours and we can finally live. 5 more years. They'd calculated it. Decided how much longer I had, how much longer they'd have to pretend, how much longer until my death freed them to live the life they wanted in the house Roger and I built. I pulled Roger's pillow close and cried silently into it, mourning not just him but the son I thought I'd raised, the family I thought I had. 2 weeks later, on a Thursday afternoon in early spring, I stopped at Henderson's Market like I did every week. The store where I'd shopped for 42 years, where the cashiers knew me by name. I grabbed the essentials, milk, bread, some vegetables for soup. At the counter, young Tommy, who'd started working there fresh out of high school, greeted me with his usual smile. Mrs. Hartwell. How are you today? I'm well, Tommy. How's your mother's hip? Much better, thank you for asking. He scanned my items. Oh, hey, did you hear about the big jackpot winner from our zip code? $75 million. Can you imagine? My hands, reaching for my wallet, froze. What? Yeah, lottery drawing was last night. Someone local won big. But they haven't come forward yet to claim it. He handed me my receipt. Wouldn't that be something? I drove home in a daze, Tommy's words echoing in my head. At a red light, I remembered the lottery ticket in my purse. The one I'd bought 2 weeks ago on the anniversary of Roger's death, standing in that same store, so angry and sad I could barely see straight. I'd bought it with numbers I'd been playing for 18 years, Roger's birthday, our wedding date, the day Mitchell was born, the day we closed on the house. With trembling hands, I pulled the ticket from the zippered pocket of my purse. I pulled up the lottery website on my phone. I sat in my car at that red light, the lottery ticket clutched between my fingers, and felt the universe shift at $75 million. After taxes, I'd take home roughly $43 million. The light turned green. Cars honked behind me. I didn't move. A fortune. A life-changing, world-altering fortune had just landed in my lap at the exact moment when I needed it most. When my son and his wife were actively plotting my demise, counting down the years until my death freed them to inherit what little I had, the irony was so perfect it almost made me laugh, almost. Instead, I drove home carefully, my mind already working. Already planning. For the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than sadness or fear. I felt power. When I got home, the house was empty. A note on the kitchen counter in Jessie's handwriting, gone to Portland for the weekend. Don't wait up. No request for permission. No mention of where in Portland or why. Just a statement, like I was the house guest instead of the homeowner. I crumpled the note and threw it away. Then I went to my bedroom, locked the door, and called the Oregon Lottery Commission. The woman who answered had a kind voice. Oregon Lottery, this is Patricia speaking. How can I help you today? I need to know about claiming a prize. Anonymously. A pause. Are we talking about a significant prize, ma'am? The $75 million jackpot from last night, another pause, longer this time. When Patricia spoke again, her voice was professional, careful. Ma'am, I'm going to transfer you to our winter services department. They'll walk you through everything. Please hold. Soft music played. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. This is Robert Chin with Winter Services. A man's voice, calm and authoritative. I understand you may have the winning ticket from last night's drawing. I do. Can you confirm the numbers for me, please? I read them off. My hands shook so badly I could barely see the digits. Mrs. I'd prefer not to give my name yet. Of course. Well, I can confirm those are the winning numbers. Congratulations. Now, before you do anything else, I need to give you some crucial advice. Do not tell anyone about this win. Not family, not friends, not your priest or your hairstylist. No one. Do you understand? I understand. People change when money enters the equation. People you've known your whole life will become strangers. This amount of money makes you a target for lawsuits, for scams, for family members who suddenly believe they're entitled to a share. Oregon is one of the few states that allows anonymous claiming through a trust. I strongly recommend you set that up before you come forward. How do I do that? I'm going to give you the names of 3 attorneys who specialize in this exact situation. Call them today. Set up consultations. Choose the one you trust. They'll create a legal structure that protects you completely. Then, and only then, should you claim your prize. He gave me the names. I wrote them down with a pen that kept slipping in my sweaty palm. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at those 3 names. Then I called the first one. Vivian Cross answered her own phone, which surprised me. Cross Legal Services, Vivian speaking. My name is Diane Hartwell. Robert Chin from the Lottery Commission gave me your name. I've won a significant prize and I need help claiming it anonymously. How significant are we talking? 75 million. 43 after taxes. Jesus. A shuffling of papers. Okay. Can you come to my office right now? Right now? Mrs. Hartwell, if you've already told anyone about this win, the clock is ticking. If you haven't, we need to move fast before you accidentally let something slip. I've seen people lose everything because they waited. Can you be here in an hour? I looked at myself in the mirror, a 71-year-old woman in old jeans and a cardigan, gray hair pulled back in a practical bun, the face of someone who'd been slowly disappearing for 3 years. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Vivian Cross's office was downtown, in a steel and glass building that smelled like expensive coffee and ambition. She met me in the lobby herself, a black woman in her mid-50s, natural haircut close, wearing a navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Mrs. Hartwell? She extended her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. Let's talk. Her office was all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She gestured to a leather chair and sat across from me, pulling out a legal pad. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. Family situation, current living arrangement, why you're worried about claiming anonymously. Don't leave anything out. So I told her. About Roger dying 5 years ago. About Mitchell and Jesse moving in 3 years ago with promises of temporary and contributions that never materialized. About the gradual erosion of respect, of boundaries, of my very existence in my own home. About the conversations I'd overheard, the gaslighting about my mental state, the calculation that I had maybe 5 more years before they inherited everything. Vivian's expression grew harder with every sentence. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me directly. Mrs. Hartwell, what you're describing is textbook elder financial abuse. Possibly worse, depending on what they've done with your assets. Have they had access to your bank accounts? No. I've kept those private. Credit cards? I hesitated. I gave Jesse an authorized user card on one of mine. For emergencies. When was the last time you checked that statement? The blood drained from my face. I haven't checked it in months. Vivian pulled out her phone. Call your credit card company right now. We need to see the damage. My fingers fumbled with my own phone. I called the customer service number on the back of my card, put it on speaker. Thank you for calling. Your current balance is $14,327. The room tilted. What? Would you like me to repeat that? I paid that card off completely 6 months ago. How is there a $14,000 balance? I can review your recent charges. One moment. Computer keys clicking. You have multiple charges from Nordstrom, Restoration Hardware, a trip to Cancun charged in January. I didn't take any trip to Cancun. The charges were made by an authorized user named Jessica Hartwell. I looked at Vivian. Her face was granite. Cancel that card immediately, Vivian said, leaning toward the phone. Report it as fraud. Ma'am, if it was an authorized user, my client is 71 years old. That authorized user has been systematically stealing from her. Cancel the card now and send us documentation of every charge made in the last year. This is Attorney Vivian Cross speaking. We'll be pursuing criminal charges. After I hung up, Vivian stood and paced to the window. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. First, we're setting up an irrevocable trust for your lottery winnings and transferring your house into a separate trust. You'll be the lifetime beneficiary, but upon your death, everything goes to charity. Your son gets nothing. His wife gets less than nothing. That seems harsh? Vivian spun around. Diane, can I call you Diane? These people have stolen from you, lied about you, isolated you from friends, and are actively plotting to have you declared incompetent so they can steal your assets before you even die. And you think cutting them out of a will is harsh? Put that way, it sounded absurd. You're right. Second, we're going to document everything. Every conversation, every theft, every lie. I'm bringing in a private investigator who specializes in financial exploitation cases. Third, you're going to go home and act completely normal. You will not tell them about the lottery. Not yet. Not until we're ready. Ready for what? Vivian's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Ready to destroy them legally, financially, and publicly. But we do it right. We do it airtight. We do it so thoroughly they'll never recover. For the first time in 3 years, I smiled back. The private investigator's name was Sorensen, a former police detective who'd gone private after 20 years on the force. She had steel gray hair, shrewd blue eyes, and a handshake that could crack walnuts. We met at a coffee shop 3 days after my meeting with Vivian. Your attorney filled me in, and said, sliding into the booth across from me. Sounds like a classic case. How long have you suspected financial exploitation? I overheard them talking about inheriting the house. About me having maybe 5 more years. That was 3 weeks ago. Have you noticed any other red flags? Missing documents, mail that disappears, bank statements you can't find? I thought back. Actually, yes. My property tax documents went missing last year. Jessie said she'd handle the payment since I was so stressed. I assumed she did. And pulled out a tablet. We'll check that. What about medical records? Have they tried to access those? Jessie's mother suggested I needed memory care. Said Jessie told her I was having cognitive issues. Which you're not, which I'm absolutely not, and nodded, typing notes. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll set up surveillance on your property, discrete cameras you'll control via an app on your phone. They'll cover every room except bedrooms and bathrooms. We need to document their behavior, their conversations, any evidence of theft or manipulation. You comfortable with that? Very comfortable. Good. I'll also run a full financial background check on both of them. See if there are other victims, other debts we don't know about. And I'll need you to do something difficult. What? Act normal. Don't confront them. Don't change your behavior. Give them enough rope to hang themselves. Can you do that? I thought about the last 3 years. The casual cruelty. The calculated gaslighting. The way they'd erased me from my own life while spending my money and living in my house. I can do that, and installed the cameras the next afternoon while Mitchell and Jesse were at work. Tiny things, hidden in smoke detectors, picture frames, even the kitchen clock, everything streams to cloud storage, she explained, showing me the app on my phone. You can watch live or review footage anytime. The audio quality is excellent. If they say anything incriminating, we've got it. After she left, I walked through my house seeing it differently. Not as the home I was losing, but as the trap I was setting. That evening, Mitchell and Jesse came home at their usual time. I'd made pot roast, one of Mitchell's childhood favorites. Smells good, Mom, Mitchell said, actually making eye contact for the first time in weeks. Thank you, honey. I thought we could all eat together tonight. Like we used to. Jessie glanced at her phone. I have a client call at 7. It's only 6. We have time, she sighed like I'd asked her to donate a kidney, but sat down. We ate in near silence. I asked about their days. Mitchell gave vague answers about spreadsheets and deadlines. Jessie scrolled through Instagram, occasionally showing Mitchell something that made them both laugh, inside jokes I wasn't part of. Oh, Mom, Mitchell said suddenly. We need to talk to you about something. My heart rate picked up, but I kept my expression neutral. What's that, sweetheart? He glanced at Jessie, who nodded encouragement. Jessie and I have been talking. We're worried about you. Worried how? You've been forgetting things, Jessie said, setting down her phone. Important things. Bills, appointments. You seem confused sometimes about conversations we've had. I don't feel confused. That's part of the problem, Mitchell said gently. People with early cognitive decline don't always recognize it themselves. I let my hand tremble slightly as I set down my fork, an act, but a convincing one. Are you saying you think something's wrong with me? We think you should see a specialist, Jessie said. Just to be safe. There's a gerontologist Brenda recommended. Dr. Philip Russo. We could make an appointment. I don't need a gerontologist. I'm perfectly fine, Mom. Please don't get defensive. Mitchell reached for my hand. I let him take it, even though his touch made my skin crawl. We love you. We're just trying to help. Help, I repeated. Like how you've been helping with the bills you haven't paid in 2 years? Like how you've been helping by stealing $14,000 on my credit card? The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Jessie's face went carefully blank. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because my credit card company has documentation of every charge you made. Cancun ring a bell? And Mitchell's face flushed red. Mom, those were business expenses. A vacation to Mexico is a business expense? Networking retreat, Jessie said smoothly. For my coaching certification. I was going to pay you back once the revenue started coming in. You've been saying revenue is coming for 3 years. Are you really going to nickel and dime us? Jessie stood, her chair scraping against the floor. After everything we've done for you? After we gave up our lives to move in here and take care of you, take care of me? You've ignored me for months. You've told people I'm mentally declining. You've stolen my money and lived rent-free in my house while waiting for me to die so you can inherit it. Jessie's mask finally cracked. You eavesdropped on a private conversation? In my own house. Yes, I did. I heard everything. 5 more years, wasn't that your estimate? 5 more years until you could finally live? Mitchell stood too, hands raised in placation. Mom, you're taking things out of context, get out. Silence, what? Jessie's voice was ice, get out of my house. You can't kick us out, Jessie said, recovering her composure. We have tenant rights. You need to give us proper notice, 30 days. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Mitchell's face crumpled. Mom, please. We have nowhere to go. We're drowning in debt. If you throw us out now. You should have thought of that before you started planning my funeral. I walked upstairs, my entire body shaking, and locked myself in my bedroom. Through the hidden cameras on my phone, I watched them in the kitchen. Jessie paced like a caged animal. That old bitch. Who does she think she is? Jessie, she's my mother. Your mother just threatened to make us homeless. Do you understand how screwed we are? Your student loans are in default. My credit cards are maxed. We've been counting on this house. Maybe we should apologize. Apologize? Jessie spun on him. No. We're not apologizing. We're going to fix this. How? Dr. Russo. We're still taking her to Dr. Russo. If he agrees she's declining, we can pursue guardianship. We'll say she's making irrational decisions, that she's paranoid and delusional. We'll get legal control over her finances before she can cut us out completely. Mitchell hesitated. That feels wrong. What feels wrong is being thrown out on the street after 3 years of taking care of her ungrateful ass. You want to be homeless, Mitchell? You want to lose everything? No, then we do this my way. I recorded every word. The next morning, I called Vivian. They're escalating, I told her, summarizing the confrontation and the plan I'd overheard. Perfect. Let them. Dr. Russo can evaluate you all he wants. You'll pass with flying colors. But their attempt to pursue false guardianship? That's elder abuse, Diane. Criminal elder abuse. Let them dig their own graves. There's something else I need to do. What's that? I need to tell them about the lottery. I need them to know what they lost. Vivian was quiet for a moment. That's risky. Once they know you have money, they'll fight harder. I know. But I want to see their faces. I want them to understand exactly how badly they miscalculated. When? This weekend. I want to tell them this weekend. Okay. But we do it right. This Saturday, you tell them. You watch their reactions, record everything. Then on Monday, we file for immediate eviction on grounds of elder abuse. We get a restraining order. We press criminal charges for the credit card fraud. We hit them with everything at once, so fast they can't recover. Deal? I smiled. Deal. Saturday morning arrived with weak spring sunshine and the smell of rain in the air. I made breakfast, scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, just like I had countless times before. Set 3 plates at the kitchen table. Mitchell and Jessie came down at 9, both looking wary. We hadn't spoken since the confrontation 3 days ago. Good morning, I said pleasantly. I made breakfast. They exchanged glances but sat down. Thank you, Mitchell said quietly. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then I set down my fork and looked at both of them. I have something to tell you both. Jessie's eyes narrowed. If this is about the 30-day notice, it's not. 6 weeks ago, I won the lottery. Mitchell's fork clattered against his plate. Jessie's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. $75 million, I continued. After taxes, I'm taking home approximately $43 million. The silence was so complete I could hear the kitchen clock ticking. You, what? Mitchell's voice came out as a croak. I won the lottery. The drawing from 6 weeks ago. I've already claimed the prize, set up trusts, worked with attorneys. It's all finalized. Jessie set down her cup carefully, her hand shaking. That's incredible, Diane. Why didn't you tell us sooner? I wanted to make sure everything was handled properly. And I wanted to observe you both. To see how you treated me when you thought I had nothing. Mom, Mitchell started. The house is in an irrevocable trust. The money is in a separate trust. Upon my death, both will go to various charities. I've made no provisions for family inheritance. Jesse's face went from shock to fury so fast I actually saw the moment the mask completely shattered. You're joking. I'm completely serious. Mitchell is your only son. Your only child. How can you? I can because for 3 years, you've treated me like garbage in my own home. You've stolen from me, lied about me, waited for me to die. Now you'll get nothing. Not the house, not the money, nothing. Mitchell's face had gone gray. Mom, please. We made mistakes. But we can fix this. We can. 30 days, I said calmly. That hasn't changed. You have 30 days to vacate my property. Jessie stood so fast her chair toppled backward. You selfish, vindictive bitch. We gave up everything for you. You gave up nothing. You took everything. You'll regret this, Jessie hissed. We'll fight this. We'll prove you're incompetent. We'll get guardianship and take every penny. Try it, I said softly. Please try it. I have attorneys who specialize in elder abuse. I have documentation of your theft. I have recordings of your conversations planning to exploit me. Go ahead and fight. See what happens. For the first time, real fear flickered across Jesse's face. Mitchell just sat there, tears streaming down his face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are, honey. But sorry doesn't undo 3 years. Sorry doesn't give me back my dignity. I stood up, leaving my barely touched breakfast on the table. 30 days, I repeated. And then I never want to see either of you again. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Jessie refused to speak to me at all. She'd walk past me like I was air, slam doors, leave messes deliberately for me to find. Once, I came home from the grocery store to find every photo of Roger had been turned face down on the mantel. I turned them back up and said nothing. Mitchell tried a different approach. Guilt. Mom, can we please talk? He appeared in my bedroom doorway Sunday evening, his face haggard. Just the two of us? What do you want to talk about? I need you to understand. Jessie was desperate. Her business failed, we had all this debt, and I was so scared we'd lose everything. When you offered to let us stay, it felt like a lifeline. A lifeline you decided to strangle me with. He flinched. That's not fair. Fair? Mitchell, you stood by while your wife stole $14,000 from me. You participated in conversations about waiting for me to die. You tried to gaslight me about having memory problems so you could pursue guardianship. Which part of that is fair? I never wanted it to go this far. I got swept up in Jessie's plans. She's very persuasive. She's a manipulator. And you let her manipulate both of us because it was easier than being a man. His face crumpled. I know I failed you. But I'm still your son. Are you? Because the son I raised wouldn't have done any of this. That boy died somewhere along the way, and I don't know the man standing in front of me. Mom, 30 days, Mitchell. The clock is ticking. He left. I sat on the edge of my bed and cried, not for him, but for the little boy he used to be. The one who brought me dandelions and called them flowers. The one who held my hand during thunderstorms. That child was gone, replaced by a coward who chose comfort over character. Monday morning, Vivian called at 8 sharp. It's time. Can you come to my office at 10? I'll be there. When I arrived, and Sorensen was already waiting with a thick folder of documents. I've been busy, Anne said, spreading papers across Vivian's conference table. Your daughter-in-law has a fascinating history. 3 bankruptcies under different business names. 2 pending lawsuits from former clients claiming fraud. A pattern of moving in with wealthy older individuals. There's a woman in Eugene who had a similar experience. Jessie befriended her, moved in as a caregiver, and systematically drained her accounts before the woman's nephew intervened. My stomach turned. So I'm not the first, not even close. She's a professional. Your son probably started out as a genuine victim of her manipulation, but at some point, he made a choice to participate. That's on him. Vivian pulled out another set of documents. I've drafted an emergency eviction petition citing elder abuse, financial exploitation, and creating a hostile living environment. We're also filing for a restraining order and submitting all evidence to the district attorney's office for criminal prosecution. How fast will this happen? We file today. Emergency hearing is scheduled for Wednesday. If the judge rules in your favor, which he will, they'll have 72 hours to vacate. The restraining order will be immediate. And leaned forward. Diane, I need to prepare you for what's coming. Jessie won't go quietly. People like her never do. She's going to lash out, try to destroy you publicly, maybe even physically. You need to be ready. I'm ready. Are you? Because once we drop this hammer, there's no going back. Your son will hate you. Jessie will try to ruin your reputation. Your life will get messy before it gets better. I thought about the last 3 years. About feeling invisible in my own home. About the cold calculation in Jessie's eyes when she discussed my death. About Mitchell's passive compliance while I was systematically erased. My life is already messy. At least now I'm fighting back, Vivian smiled. Then let's go to war. We filed everything Monday afternoon. By Tuesday morning, Mitchell and Jessie had been served. I was at the grocery store when Mitchell called, his voice shaking with rage. What the hell is this? A restraining order? Criminal charges? Mom, have you lost your mind? No, Mitchell. I've found it. You and Jessie have exactly 72 hours to vacate my property after Wednesday's hearing. There's not going to be a hearing. We're going to fight this. Jessie's lawyer says these charges are bogus, that you're having a psychotic break. Jessie's lawyer can say whatever he wants. I have documentation. Recordings. Surveillance footage. Bank statements showing the theft. Testimony from the credit card company. What do you have? Silence. That's what I thought. See you in court, Mitchell. I hung up and finished my shopping. Wednesday morning arrived cold and gray. I dressed carefully, navy blue suit, pearls Roger gave me on our 30th anniversary, sensible heels. I wanted to look like what I was, a competent, clear-minded woman who'd been victimized by people she trusted. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Judge Helen Rodriguez presided, a Latina woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse in the world and believed none of them. Jessie and Mitchell sat with their attorney, a slick-looking man named Raymond Pierce who kept checking his phone. Jessie wore a demure gray dress and minimal makeup, playing the role of concerned daughter-in-law. Mitchell just looked sick. We're here for an emergency eviction hearing, Judge Rodriguez began. Mrs. Hartwell is petitioning to remove Mitchell and Jessica Hartwell from her property on grounds of elder abuse and financial exploitation. Mr. Pierce, your clients wish to contest? We absolutely contest, Your Honor. Mrs. Hartwell is a vulnerable elderly woman who's been manipulated by unscrupulous attorneys into believing false narratives about her loving family. Save the speech, Judge Rodriguez said flatly. Let's see the evidence. Vivian stood, crisp and professional. Your Honor, we have extensive documentation. First, bank statements showing $14,000 in fraudulent credit card charges made by Mrs. Jessica Hartwell without permission. She submitted the statements. Judge Rodriguez reviewed them, her expression darkening. Next, we have surveillance footage from Mrs. Hartwell's home, legally installed with her permission. This footage shows the defendants discussing plans to pursue false guardianship, waiting for Mrs. Hartwell to die so they could inherit her property, and actively gaslighting her about supposed cognitive decline. Vivian played 3 separate video clips. In the courtroom silence, Jessie's voice rang out clear, 5 more years, max. Then this place is ours and we can finally live. Mitchell's voice, what if she fights the guardianship? Jessie's laugh, she won't. She's too desperate for us to love her. It's pathetic, really. I watched Mitchell sink lower in his chair. Jessie's face remained expressionless, but her hands clenched white-knuckled in her lap. Third, Vivian continued, we have testimony from social worker Carol Brennan, who was told by Mrs. Jessica Hartwell that Mrs. Diane Hartwell was experiencing memory problems and shouldn't receive visitors. This false information isolated Mrs. Hartwell from her support system, a classic abuse tactic. Carol, bless her, had agreed to testify. She stood and confirmed everything. Fourth, documentation that the defendants have lived rent-free in Mrs. Hartwell's home for 3 years, contributing nothing financially while systematically stealing from her. More papers submitted. Judge Rodriguez's expression could have frozen lava. And finally, Your Honor, evidence that Mrs. Jessica Hartwell has perpetrated similar schemes against at least 2 other elderly individuals in Oregon. She has a documented pattern of befriending vulnerable people, moving into their homes, and exploiting them financially. An's investigative report went into the record. Judge Rodriguez looked at Raymond Pierce. Does your client wish to respond? Raymond stood, tugging at his tie. Your Honor, this is clearly a vendetta. Mrs. Hartwell recently came into significant money lottery winnings and has decided to cut out her family. These charges are retaliatory. Mr. Pierce, Judge Rodriguez interrupted. I've just watched video of your clients discussing waiting for this woman to die so they could inherit her house. I've seen credit card statements showing theft. I've heard testimony about isolation tactics. Are you seriously suggesting this is about money? I'm suggesting that sudden wealth can cause paranoia. Does Mrs. Hartwell seem paranoid to you? Judge Rodriguez looked at me directly. Mrs. Hartwell, please stand. I stood, my legs steadier than I expected. How old are you? 71, Your Honor. Do you understand where you are and why we're here? Yes, Your Honor. I'm in Multnomah County Circuit Court for an emergency eviction hearing regarding my son Mitchell and his wife Jessica, who have financially exploited me for 3 years. What's today's date? Wednesday, April 17, 2024. Who's the current governor of Oregon? Tina Kotek. What's 783 minus 349? I did the math in my head. 434, Judge Rodriguez nodded. Mrs. Hartwell appears perfectly competent to me. Mr. Pierce, anything else? Raymond looked like a man drowning. Your Honor, if we could just have more time to gather our own evidence. Time? Judge Rodriguez's voice could have cut steel. Your clients have had 3 years of time. Time they spent stealing, manipulating, and planning to exploit a woman who gave them shelter. I've seen enough. She looked at Mitchell and Jessie directly. I'm granting the emergency eviction. You have 72 hours to vacate the property. I'm also granting a 5-year restraining order. You are not to come within 500 feet of Mrs. Hartwell or her property. If you violate this order, you will be arrested immediately. Jessie shot to her feet. This is insane. That house should be ours. We gave up 3 years. Sit down, Mrs. Hartwell, Judge Rodriguez said coldly. You gave up nothing. You took everything. And now you're facing criminal charges for elder abuse, fraud, and theft. I suggest you find a better lawyer, because Mr. Pierce clearly isn't up to the task. She banged her gavel. We're adjourned. Bailiff, please ensure these individuals understand the terms of the restraining order. I in the hallway outside the courtroom. Mitchell tried to approach me. Mom, please. 2 bailiffs stepped between us. Sir, the restraining order is in effect immediately, one of them said. You need to stay back. I just want to talk to her. Mom! His voice cracked. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, can we just talk? I looked at him, really looked at him. At 38 years old, my son had become a stranger. A man who'd chosen comfort over character, who'd stood by while his wife abused me, who'd participated in planning my exploitation. There's nothing to talk about, Mitchell. I didn't know it would go this far. I didn't know Jessie was. Yes, you did. You heard every conversation. You saw every act of cruelty. You made a choice, and now you're living with the consequences. I'm your son. You were my son. The boy I raised wouldn't have done any of this. His face crumbled completely. Don't say that. Please don't say that. Goodbye, Mitchell. I walked away. Behind me, I heard him sobbing, but I didn't turn around. Some betrayals are too deep for forgiveness. They were gone within 48 hours. I came home from lunch with Carol and some other friends to find the house empty. They'd taken their belongings and nothing else. Vivian had made sure they understood that removing any of my property would constitute additional theft charges. The silence was profound. I walked through each room, reclaiming my space. The guest bedroom where they'd slept. The kitchen where Jessie had sneered at my cooking. The living room where I'd felt like a ghost. In Mitchell's childhood bedroom, I found a note on the dresser. Mom, I know you'll probably never read this, or if you do, you won't care. But I need to say it anyway that I failed you. In every possible way, I failed you. Jessie didn't force me to participate in any of this. I made choices. Bad choices. Cowardly choices. I told myself I was just trying to survive, but the truth is I was trying to take the easy road, and that road led straight through your heart. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what we did to you. What I did to you. And I hate myself for it. I hope you find happiness with your new life. I hope the money brings you joy instead of the pain we brought you. And I hope someday, years from now, you might think of me without feeling angry that I love you. I always loved you. I just forgot how to show it. Michelli read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd be able to read it without feeling the sharp sting of betrayal. But not today. The criminal trial happened 6 months later. Jessie was charged with elder financial abuse, fraud, and theft. Mitchell was charged as an accessory for his role in the credit card fraud and for knowingly participating in the abuse. I testified. So did Carol, and several other witnesses. The evidence was overwhelming. Jessie showed no remorse throughout the trial. She sat rigid in her chair, her lawyer a better one this time trying damage control. But you can't control video footage of your client planning to exploit a dying woman. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes, guilty on all counts. Jessie got 3 years in prison and was ordered to pay full restitution money I knew she'd never have. Mitchell got probation and 500 hours of community service, but he lost his accounting license. His career was over. When the verdict was read, Jessie finally broke. She screamed at me across the courtroom, "You ruined my life. You vindictive old bitch, you ruined everything." The judge ordered her removed. Mitchell just sat there, tears streaming down his face, looking at me with an expression of such profound loss it almost broke through my armor. Almost 1 year after that Wednesday hearing, I sold the house on Maple Ridge Drive. Too many ghosts. Too many painful memories. I couldn't walk through those rooms without hearing Jessie's cruel laughter or seeing Mitchell's complicit silence. I bought a beautiful condo on the coast, all windows and light, with a view of the Pacific Ocean that took my breath away every morning. Modern, clean, mine. With Vivian's help, I established the Roger and Diane Hartwell Foundation for Elder Rights. We funded legal aid for seniors fighting financial exploitation. We supported safe housing for elderly people escaping abusive family situations. We educated communities about warning signs. I met so many survivors. Women like Marion, whose grandson stole her identity and destroyed her credit. Ruth, whose daughter forced her to sell her house and kept the money. Linda, whose son-in-law isolated her from everyone who cared about her while draining her accounts. We formed a community. We supported each other. We reminded each other that surviving abuse doesn't make you weak, it makes you a warrior. Carol and my other friends came back into my life. I traveled to Italy, where Roger always wanted to go. To Greece, where I walked ancient ruins and felt connected to something bigger than my pain. To Ireland, where I rented a cottage and spent a month just being. I took art classes. Learned to paint watercolors, badly at first, then better. I joined a book club. Volunteered at the library where I'd worked for 3 decades. I really lived, for the first time since Roger died. Mitchell tried to contact me twice in that first year. The first time was a letter, delivered through Vivian to avoid violating the restraining order. Pages and pages of apology, therapy updates, promises of change. I read it once. Then I wrote back a single sentence: I forgive you for me, not for you. But you're not my son anymore. That boy is gone. The second time was 6 months later. Another letter, shorter this time: Mom, Jessie and I are divorced. She blamed me for everything that happened, even though it was her plan from the start. I'm in therapy twice a week. I'm working at a call center because no one will hire an accountant with a criminal record. I'm not writing to ask for money or help. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to become the man I should have been. The son you deserved. Maybe in another life, we can start over. But I understand if this life is done. I love you, Mitchell. I put that letter in the drawer with the first one and never responded. Some people say I'm heartless. That family deserves endless chances. That a mother should never give up on her child. But those people haven't been what I've been through. They haven't felt the specific pain of being betrayed by someone you gave life to. They haven't experienced the slow death of being erased in your own home while the child you raised watches and does nothing. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. Love doesn't require access. And choosing yourself doesn't make you selfish. Sometimes it makes you sane. I'm 72 now, sitting on my balcony watching the sun set over the Pacific. The wind carries the smell of salt and possibility. Tomorrow, I'm flying to New York for the Foundation's annual gala. We're honoring 3 elderly survivors who fought back against family exploitation and won. Their courage inspires me every single day. Next month, I'm going to Australia with Carol and 2 other friends from book club. 3 weeks of adventure, of laughter, of living fully in bodies that society often tries to make invisible. The lottery money that was supposed to make me vulnerable actually saved me. Not because of what it bought, but because it revealed the truth I'd been too afraid to see. My son wasn't waiting for me to die. He was just comfortable with me not really living. And Jessie? She taught me the most valuable lesson of all, that sometimes the people who claim they'll take care of you are really just taking inventory of what they can steal. I think about Roger sometimes, about that lottery ticket with numbers I'd played for 18 years. His birthday. Our anniversary. The day Mitchell was born. The day we closed on that house. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it was cosmic justice. Or maybe Roger, wherever he is, knew I needed one final gift, not the money itself, but the catalyst to reclaim my life. I visit his grave every Sunday when I'm in town. I bring yellow roses from the farmer's market and tell him stories about the foundation, about the women we're helping, about the life I'm building in the aftermath of everything. You'd be proud of me, I say to the granite marker. I finally chose myself. The wind rustles through the cemetery trees, carrying the scent of roses, and I choose to believe that's his way of saying he always knew I would. Before I go, I want to ask you something. If you found yourself in my situation, if the people you loved most betrayed you, stole from you, waited for you to die, what would you do? Would you forgive them? Would you walk away? Would you fight back like I did? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and your stories matter. Your voices matter. If this story touched you, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose yourself, that it's okay to walk away from toxic family, that survival is not just possible, it's powerful. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Voice of Auntie Katie and hit that notification bell. Because I have more stories coming, stories of betrayal and revenge, of pain and justice, of people who refuse to stay victims. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of this community. Until next time, my beautiful souls, choose yourself. Always choose yourself. God bless you all.